With us now to review the morning papers are the theologian Vicky Beeching and the deputy editor of the Daily Express, Michael Booker. Good morning to you both. Nice to see you. We're going to start with this, well, increasingly horrific story, actually. This is in The Independent, and it's in Brazil, being dubbed a samba revolution. Let's see if it comes up for us there. Vicky, you talk us into it. There it is. There it is. It's skew whiffy, but we'll get it up there.
There it is. So it's a really dramatic image of yesterday. 1 million people marching in Rio in one of these kind of revolutions that we're seeing sweep these different nations. I'm really interested in social media and the impacts that has on society. So it's been interesting to hear people talk about how Facebook and Twitter have really been fueling this. It obviously began about public transport fare increases, but then apparently from hearing from people on the ground, journalists are saying that social media has really turned this into a campaign against any form of inequality. Brazil has really been boosted in its economy of late, but the average people aren't really benefiting. So I noticed that the president had actually made a statement since this went to press, and I thought she came across very well. And she's made some really great statements about reforms they're going to make with, education and transport. And I thought she came across as very fair.
Oh, well and good promising it, though, is when you've got millions of people on the streets just to try and get them off the streets. But it's following them through, and I think they've probably had decades and generations of people just being left to live in favelas and things like that, and they've seen that, the government have lied to them for many years. So,
but in the first instance, she is saying that they are actually listening and responding to this huge demonstration.
I would if someone had a flaming torch outside my front door.
I guess you have to really acknowledge them.
Sounds hopeful, though, because I think when you go in with force against people that want revolution, it's quite dangerous. And I like the way that she seemed very conciliatory and said she understands why they're saying what they're saying, and there's a good energy that actually represents the heart of Brazil.
But making clear that no more violence will be tolerated. And whenever you hear something like that from a senior politician, I always start to get slightly worried.
You can usually hear the guns being loaded in the background.
Exactly.
Let's move on to the Telegraph, and this is a story that was sort of knocking around yesterday, and this is the use of fields. Really, government promising to sort of get more hardline on wasted space.
Yeah, but it's going to be very upsetting for people who do live on Greenbelt, and it does appear to have been upsetting to Anna Soubry, a Tory health minister, who's written to Nick Bowles, another Tory minister, talking about there's going to be some development on Greenbelt land in her constituency. I think it's in Nottinghamshire, and she's very worried about that. And then she's got this response from Nick Bowles saying in some places this may mean building on low-quality, environmentally uninteresting field, whatever an uninteresting field is. So the definition of that's going to be... people are going to be chasing that for a while. But I think clearly he said it in a fairly offhand way to her, but now he's got to define what an uninteresting field is, and people get very upset about it. We need our green spaces, even in towns and cities we've got limited green space and some fields there that again could now be saying, well, that's a boring field. All the kids just kick around a football on there now and again. Let's stick some flats on it.
But it is quite bizarre. What is an uninteresting field? They're
green.
And
definition. It feels a bit like reading George Orwell's 1984, thinking, kind of looking at these spaces that to us are beautiful and precious, but in the kind of exciting, dramatic entertainment age might seem dull. I don't really think you can't really delineate.
The other point is they say that millions more people need more housing, but it doesn't actually say affordable housing. They say they're going to build more housing on it, whereas anyone who can actually afford to live in them is another thing.
That's a different matter. Let's have a look at this story in the Times, Vicky. Quite an interesting one, and perhaps not one I thought I'd see. The Church of England singing the praises of pagan-style worship.
Yeah, I do think this is a slightly controversial headline, and it caught my eye. As most of the stuff I do is related to religion.
Does it bear relation to the story, though? That's the key point.
Basically, 21,000 people yesterday converged on Stonehenge. So as a nation, we have very interesting levels of spirituality, even though the Church of England is sort of known to either be in decline or stabilising in its figures. So this story is basically saying the Church is watching with great interest as the people of England kind of flock to experiences like this, sort of mystical experiences like, solstice and the different kind of pagan rituals in here. And it's being put forward that the Fresh Expressions wing of the Church of England, which I'm very familiar with, it's basically a part of the Church of England that reinvents church. It says, let's try and take off the trappings and make it a bit more accessible. It's going to be looking at kind of common ground with pagans. So Who knows? I mean,
So
to me,
the church can learn from pagans.
to me, it's quite strange.
Is it that surprising? Didn't Christianity essentially appropriate most of the major pagan festivals for their own purposes anyway? So.
Like Christmas
Exactly.
trees.
Yes,
I think that's what they're saying, that there may be common ground for people wanting these spiritual experiences, but you've still got to retain the essence of what makes something a religion, I think. Otherwise, you can't really pick a mix like at the sweet shop and just go a little bit of this, a little bit of that, because I think it diminishes actually following a religion. So this to me seems, I can understand it, but it also alarms me slightly, because I think if you basically just choose what you want from any of the faiths, you've sort of disrespected all of them, I think.
See, I always like Stonehenge in the solstice because you see, as you say, the different levels of religion and belief, but also the different levels of drunkenness as well.
I thought you might like that element.
Brilliant, and the costumes too.
Guys, thank you very much for the moment. We're going to take a break. Coming up, the puffer jacket. Welcome back. Continuing with the papers are the theologian Vicky Beeching and the deputy editor of the Daily Express, Michael Booker. And Michael, you're up first. I love this headline: Puffer buffer saves cliff plunge duffer.
It loses some in the story, unfortunately. There's a bit of a drop-off after that, but there was a drop-off in the story as well. This is a guy called Lee Westerman. He plunged 40 foot from a cliff. He was going for a walk with his girlfriend Lisa in Mapleton, East Yorkshire. Lovely walk, an evening walk. They'd been to a car boot sale, so they thought, what perfect day. We've been to a car boot sale. Let's go for a walk along the cliffs. He then saw a cat on the cliff and decided, oh, I'm going to have a closer look at this cat. He then stood up, got dizzy and fell off the cliff. Oh. But luckily he was wearing a slightly padded jacket, which, according to the doctors, he was blacked out. He had a fit at the bottom of the cliffs, but he's all right now. They said if he hadn't been wearing this lightly filled puffer jacket, he wouldn't have survived. He's very distressed, though, because they had to cut it off. And he said that it's a shame because I can't wear it ever again now. And,
I'm sure the makers of the jacket will offer him a replacement now.
I'd frame it.
I would thought. It's going to have an endorsement.
But quite surprised that it's only lightly padded.
Well,
I thought it would have been
like a big blow-up.
It's going to be one of those big North Face kind of giant.
Yeah, just a light bit of padding saved his life.
He's very lucky. Now, this story I also love. This is in the Mirror, Vicky, and a pensioner who refuses to take it easy, especially on his mobility scooter.
So this is a defiant grandad. He's been riding his mobility scooter on a busy dual carriageway for many years, I believe. He actually got pulled over by the police and given a strong caution, even though it's not illegal. And the hilarious thing was the police were worried it didn't have a speedometer, but it does actually have two buttons that you push, one that says tortoise speed and one that says rabbit speed.
Oh, I know which one I'd go for.
Worried motorists. Apparently worried motorists were tweeting pictures of him, but he's saying he's completely within his rights and he's going to keep on motoring.
Keep going on that rabbit speed. Hats off to him, I say.
I do too.
Vicky and Michael, thank you very much for the moment. Let's quickly see what's happening on Back Pages with Charlie.